Doodlebud here with another pen review today. It is the Pliot Prera. You could almost call this a pocket pen or in-between pen. It's small but works extremely well. Let's get into it and see what this pen is all about. So this pen was sent to me from the great folks at Pen Chalet. It came in this nice little box. This is the Pliot Prera light blue with a medium nib on it. Comes in your standard little Pilot box, does the job. You can see on the inside as a bit of a display, pops open. It does come with this little tag here on to the clip. Underneath, so it's secured in there, underneath the little pen bed, you have a cartridge that comes with, and then the little user and care guide. The guide shows you the filling instructions really for all their different types of pens. If you got a Con 40 converter, if you have a piston filler, all that sort of stuff, a vanishing point. And it also mentions the warranty information, if I can get it the right side up. And as you can see here, it is guaranteed for life to be free from manufacturing defects, so they definitely stand behind their product. It closes with a very firm snap. And let's get that out of the way. We don't need that anymore. And let's get on to the pen. I'll apologize in advance. I was cleaning some pens and yeah, I just got in there. I scrubbed and scrubbed, can't get it out, so you just got to deal with it for the review. It comes, as you can see here, I've been using this pen quite a bit here for a week, almost empty, with a Con 40 converter. Beauty little pen. We're going to roll through. It's a snap cap. This thing has just been working really great. Haven't had one issue, one hiccup or hard start. Nothing has gone wrong with it. We'll roll through the pen, tell you all the features, likes, dislikes, all that good stuff, size comparison. But first off, as you know, I like to do my glam shots. So let's just head right into it. I always hope those glam shots help to show you parts of the pen instead of just me describing them. Why not just get you up and close so you can see it? We got the Pliot Japan on there. Prera is the name. Comes with a sticker to show you the nib size. And then what you see is what you get here, folks. Got a nice clip, nice and smooth, quite functional, not too hard, not too loose. It's going to do the job. Clean finial other than my fingerprint that's on top of there. Little coloration. So these are the color changes in the pen. It's got a few different colors. There's like greens and darker blues, pinks, and all sorts of different stuff on there as well. You can check out the Pen Chalet site to see the differences, but those are the main ones, just the coloration on the ends of those little kind of finials, I guess you would call them. Clean here on the back here as well, other than the colored plastic. Pen comes off. Now, I don't know, is it a snap cap or slip cap? I don't know the exact line you draw to differentiate between the two, but it's a very, very nice smooth motion, nice sound as well. I just like when you put it in, how it's designed, it almost like sucks the nib all the way in, the pen body into the cap as well. With the lighting, you can see a little bit, there's just how it's designed. It's very, very simple. You can see those right there. So there's a little pressure fit here, puts a little bit of pressure here on the collar of the pen. And then there's a few dimples that are in there. You can see down there a little bit possibly. There we go. Kind of if we're looking right down there at the bottom. So you got those fins on the sides there, that dimple way down in there. And that sucks the pen in, goes over top of that collar to drive it all the way home. And that satisfying little click noise. Let me get it on the microphone. The click comes from the metal on metal. So there's a little step here, and it hits up against, and you get that satisfying click sound. It's very, very nice. It's very functional. You can just sit here and do this all day, one-handed. Of course, it posts. It's a pretty small pen on its own. It's, you know, for me, it's way too small. I have to write it posted. If you got a small hand, I could see you getting away with it, but it's so light. It posts quite securely. You're going to want to write with the pen posted. And the section's got decent girth. That little step that's on there, that doesn't bother me whatsoever. It's not an unpleasant transition. It's quite a small transition, but there's no sharp edges. As true Pilot form, like I think it's, you got to try to get a bad Pilot pen, at least with the experience I've had. All their pens seem to be made very well. You got a clear injection molded body. Here, I'll take the pen apart here. Pop off the body, and then you got the Con 40 that it comes with as well, with the little agitator balls. I know there was like this hate on for this converter, but there's a little of us, things you got to think about when you've been making pens for a long time. So let's find, here's my vintage Pilot Elite, which I absolutely love. This thing looks super sharp. I can take the Con 40 and put it right into this pen from 1970. And this one, so to speak, didn't come with a converter. So I took the squeeze converter that came with my brand new Pilot Metropolitan and put it in there. So we can swap all these parts between these pens. So that's one thing you got to think about when you've been making pens for a while, is backwards compatibility to make sure stuff works. A buddy of mine, his first job when he started working at Microsoft was backwards compatibility for Excel. Not the funnest thing, but you also got to think about that even with your products as well. So they support the products all the way back to the 1970s. Parts fit, cartridges fits, which is really great. Another thing too is just how this is how I kind of got ink on my hands a little bit here, is how this all goes together. So if you notice the opening on the Pilot pens, it's much, much wider. And that just sort of has to do with how they do their air ink exchange. I've never had a problem with like a Pilot pen having challenges with hard starts and stuff. Now, my Pilot 912 with an FA nib, the feed just wasn't up to the task. See, I told you. Give me a second. The ink, by the way, this is Private Reserve Sonic Blue. You're going to see it on the paper, but that's also how it looks on your hand if you get totally soaked. Let's just put this back together really quick, so I don't do any more mess here. But yeah, it works really well. I'll just take a feed from another pen, from a Pilot Metro, which is all nice and clean, and show you the feed off of like your standard pen that takes whether it's a Jinhao feed or your other feeds off every other pen that we've seen, and just show you a quick little comparison. Okay, let me pop the feed off my Pilot Metropolitan. No converter in there, that's great. So it pops out. One nice thing too, the feed and all that is exactly the same on the Metro as it is on the Prera. You can see it's the same design, same stuff. So I guess too, if you wanted to swap nibs around, you could do that with those pens too, which is a bit of a nice feature as well. But you can see there's some major differences here in the feed. One is just how Pilot puts their nibs in, which is really great. You can see it's even keyed. So on the feed here, and you can see that you've got some little tangs there on the nib. It just goes onto the feed. It goes one way only. If we could focus, and it just sits in there. So you know exactly where it's going. And that's sort of standard across the board on their gold nib pens and their steel nib pens here as well. But this is the big one. So, a big thing that's going on to get good airflow is the ink air exchange. And you can see just the difference, the size of the nipple that they're using on the Pilot pens. And so this is why they have their own cartridges and their own filling systems as well. But you can see the big one here. So look at this separate channel. So this is notched out and goes up into here, but that's a separate channel and runs right here in the bottom. So it's getting its own channel all the way up, and you can see the little air bubbles that are going on. You can watch the ink air exchange happening. It's a clear pen, which kind of helps a lot too. But you can see, I'll go in on the Prera and you'll be able to see it in action as well. So they're really doing a good job to just make it the best option possible to make sure you're getting good flow going into it, but the air exchange can take place uninhibited. And I think that's probably a big reason why with a Pilot pen, you just don't have any sort of issues with ink flow going into the pen. Let's see if I can show you what I'm talking about. So there you go there. You can see airflow gets to go in, comes around the side, links, and then goes into its own designated little vein there to facilitate that air ink exchange going on. So I think that's part and parcel to the design of it. I know not everyone loves the Con 40. The capacity is a bit small, but they're dealing with a few things to be backwards compatible, but they're also doing their best job on improving like the standard kind of feed design with the converter. It's not perfect. It works most of the time, but it's just not quite perfect. And being a Japanese company and this sort of the culture, you got to improve it a little bit better. And so that's what they've done. And that's part and parcel of the design there on that Con 40. So it's a small little pen. I'll give you dimensions and size comparison in a second, but since I got the scale out, let's just do a weight. Let's say 15.6, maybe closer to 16 grams. This converter here is almost empty. Let's see how much of that is in the pen body. Yeah, about 7.7. So almost kind of 50-50 between the cap and the body. So I took a few dimensions of the pen, 120.5 millimeters for the overall length. The main body here, before the cap, this is about 12 millimeters with a 1 millimeter taper, like 13.4 with about a 1 millimeter taper. The section's about 20 millimeters long, and same thing, starts off, I think, what was it, around 11? Yeah, 11 millimeters, and you end a little bit under 10 at the narrowest part. Uncapped, the pen on its own is only 108 millimeters, but post the pen like you're going to use it, it's like 135.5. So for a bit of a size comparison, we got the Prera in the middle. That's my vintage Pilot Elite. Faber-Castell Ondoro, that is in the oak. Kaweco Sport, and then my little Enso Pocket Puma. And here are those same pens posted because that's how I use these pens when I write with them. And you can see it's just a touch longer than the Kaweco Sport, but not quite as long as the other ones when we post them up. And with that size comparison, I think you can see why this, you could classify it as a pocket pen. It could be full size as well, but I think it's a good little pocket pen, especially for clipping on a notebook, chucking in your pocket and taking it wherever you go. And speaking of taking this wherever you want to go, this got me thinking, this is such a nice slip cap, snap cap. It's been sealing so well. I love how they do that. Why not see if you can take this with you on an airplane? And I'm going to put it nib down. I filled it up a bit more, so we got a lot more ink in there, but I left a little bit of an air bubble because we want that. Going to pop it in, simulate taking it on an airplane, and we're going to see how this thing does, see if we can make it bleed or if it holds up. All right, so that's sort of the vacuum you would have if you're at cruising altitude on your kind of regular commercial airplanes. I'm going to let it go there for a bit, check it. If it's clean, I'm going to pull the biggest vacuum this little gauge can handle, this setup I got, which isn't amazing. So that's been a little bit. Let's drop the pressure and see what we get. Wasn't that easier than buying a plane ticket and going up? Let's see. Oh, we did get a little ink out of there. Okay, that doesn't surprise me. It's a really, really good one. But yeah, not completely perfect. I don't think that ink's going to fall out of there. So you could probably take it with you on an airplane. But I was just curious how good that seal was, because this thing hasn't missed a beat. And to be fair, there are very few pens, maybe only 2 or something like that I recall, that completely passed the worst case scenario and didn't even leak a drop. So I wouldn't have any problems taking that with me if I was traveling, going up on an airplane. So you've seen how this ink looks on my hand. Let's see how it looks on the paper. We got some Rhodia paper here, and we'll just blast off a quick little writing sample for you. Here's some reverse. It is pretty scratchy. Yeah, that's pretty bad. I wouldn't recommend that on this one. Reverse writing is hit and miss. Let's see if we get any line variation. Yeah, not much. This isn't a flex nib, it's a steel nib. What's really great with this pen, I think, for doing notes, pop the cap on, do your note. Maybe you gotta do a checklist. You're in meetings and you need to pop the cap, write down some notes pretty quick, something like that. You're a student, whatever it is. Just a really great performing pen for this type of stuff. What I'm going to do is get some other pens together and just do a bit of a nib size comparison. Maybe that helps you when selecting a pen. I know it's sometimes a stress point. This medium performs really well. The wetness is really good, but I think showing you a few other nib sizes might help you with your purchase decision if you're checking this pen out. So we'll put the Pilot down first. We'll compare it. Got my Enso that has a Bock fine nib. Really quick note I noticed. It got a little smudgy up there in the light blue. I think that's just because the feed was extra wet from when I took it out of the vacuum chamber. But now we got ourselves a vintage Pilot with a fine nib on there as well. And now over to my Pelican M805 with a extra fine nib. So getting close up here, we got some focus now. So I'd say that medium, that Pilot medium is dead nuts there with that Bock fine nib. You can see with the Pilot Elite, it's much finer. And the extra fine Pelican is pretty much the same as the Japanese medium. So what are my overall thoughts on this nice little Pliot Prera? I really, really like it. I haven't had any issues whatsoever. I opened it up, put some ink in it, and it just penned, and it hasn't stopped penning since I got it. It, works really well. It's nice and smooth. The flow was right. Works like just flawlessly, which is what you really want. The snap cap is really great. The posting is really nice. It's a small pen. It's very similar, as I showed you there, to the Kaweco Sport. One thing I do like, though, it's got a little more thickness here in the section. The Sport, for me, the length is okay. I would prefer a touch more, but it's not too bad. But on the Kaweco Sport, it's just a little too narrow for my hands. So this is a little bit more manageable. It's not a ton bigger, but just enough for me as well. And yeah, it's just super reliable pen. Pen Chalet, they have it listed. Normally the retail is $70 US. They have it on sale for $56. I think that's a pretty reasonable price. You're getting a high performing pen, no challenges whatsoever, lightweight and portable, and not going to fail on you. As far as things that I don't like about it, it would be kind of cool if they did something a little more with this finial. It's pretty plain Jane. Maybe just a little P for Pilot or something on there would be sort of nice. But other than that, I think it serves its purpose. They put every dollar into making sure this pen is just going to function without hesitation, without any issues. It's not meant to be super flashy or anything like that, other than just work. You pick it up, put it in your pocket, put it in your notebook, take it out of your bag, whatever it is, and you just want this thing to work, and it works just every single time. Whatever you throw at it, I've been using this pen quite a bit, drained a Con 40 on it, and it just doesn't stop whatsoever. You just keep writing and writing and writing, and it never misses a beat. So it's maybe not the flashiest pen around, not like my cool little Enso Pocket Puma Titanium with the cool anodized job, but damn it, this thing works. And if you want a dependable pen, I would have no problem saying go get one and give it a go. That is a wrap on this little light blue Pliot Prera, kindly sent to me from the great folks there at Pen Chalet. Big thank you to everyone who's been watching. The fact that you leave comments and you like, and especially you subscribe to my videos. When some pen retailers reach out, they go, oh, he's got some subs and he's got some people engaging. We should send him some pens to review so people can get a lowdown from Doodlebud. So thanks for everyone who's been watching and helping the channel grow so I can bring you more content like this. So there we go. If you got any questions, leave them in the bottom there in the comments. I'll put some notes in the descriptions. Hit sub if you haven't. We'll leave it at that. We'll catch you next time.